biometric scanner emitted a sound that Marcus Chen had never heard before in all his months of space travel. It wasn't the pleasant chime that usually accompanied clearance through security checkpoints. This was a harsh, pulsating alarm that made every head in the arrival terminal turn toward him. Marcus froze, his duffel bag still slung over one shoulder, confusion spreading across his face. He'd passed through dozens of these scanners on stations across 3 sectors. What could possibly be wrong now? The answer came in the form of 6 security drones that descended from the ceiling with mechanical precision, forming a hexagonal perimeter around him. Their weapons weren't drawn, but the targeting lasers painted red dots across his chest in a pattern that left no ambiguity about their purpose. "Please remain stationary," a synthesized voice announced through the terminal's speakers. "Security personnel are en route." Marcus raised his hand slowly, careful to make no sudden movements. Around him, other travelers. A family of Metharians with their distinctive crystalline skin, a pair of Threen merchants, several Korthans in civilian clothes, all backed away, creating a wide circle of empty space. Some recorded the incident on personal devices. Others simply hurried toward their gates, wanting no part of whatever situation was unfolding. Chief Security Officer Vaxtrel arrived within 90 seconds, moving with the fluid grace that all Korthans possessed despite their reptilian bulk. His scales were a deep emerald color, marked with the silver stripes that denoted senior rank in the Galactic Security Force. Behind him came Lieutenant Kessa, whose forearms carried a datapad, a scanner, and 2 different types of restraints. Vaxtrel's eyes, vertical pupils in fields of amber, studied Marcus with the intensity of a predator evaluating prey. He'd been chief of security on Threshold Station for 8 years, and in that time he detained smugglers, pirates, corporate spies, and even a would-be assassin targeting a diplomatic delegation. He knew the look of a dangerous individual. The human before him, with his nervous smile and travel-rumpled clothes, didn't fit the profile, which made the scanner readings even more concerning. "Marcus Chen," Vaxtrel said, his translator rendering his words in smooth galactic common. "You are being detained under Security Protocol 7, suspected covert operative." The color drained from Marcus's face. "I'm sorry, what? There has to be some mistake. I'm a freight coordinator. I'm here for a job with Stellar Logistics." "The biometric scan suggests otherwise." Vaxtrel gestured to Kessa, who held up the datapad to show Marcus the readout. Even to Marcus's untrained eye, the display looked alarming. Red warnings filled the screen, accompanied by graphs and numerical data that spiked far beyond what appeared to be normal ranges. "Your reaction time exceeds baseline human averages by 340%, Kessa explained, her translator giving her voice a melodious quality despite the serious content. "Your muscle memory patterns are consistent with advanced combat training. The threat assessment algorithm has assigned you a danger rating equivalent to Special Forces operatives from multiple species." Marcus stared at the data, his mind racing. "That can't be right. I've never been in any military, I'm just a regular guy." "Yet you have no registered augmentations," Vaxtrel continued. "No cybernetic enhancements, no genetic modifications on file, which means either our systems are malfunctioning or you are not what you claim to be." "Your systems are definitely malfunctioning," Marcus insisted, but even as he said it, he saw the doubt flicker across the security officers' faces. They'd heard that before, from actually guilty people. Vaxtrel made a decision. "You will accompany us to the security center for further evaluation. You may cooperate voluntarily, or the drones will ensure your compliance." Marcus looked at the drones, at the growing crowd of onlookers, at the security officers who clearly weren't going to take no for an answer. He lowered his hand slowly and nodded. "Okay, yes, I'll cooperate, but I'm telling you this is a mistake." The holding cell was designed for dangerous individuals. Force field generator in the doorway, reinforced walls, monitoring equipment that tracked every movement, every breath. Marcus sat on the bench that served as the room's only furniture and tried to process what was happening. He'd left Earth 3 months ago, excited about the opportunity to work on one of the galaxy's major trading hubs. He'd imagined making contacts, learning about alien cultures, maybe trying exotic foods from a dozen different worlds. He had not imagined being arrested as a spy. In the security center's main operations room, Vaxtrel stood before a large holographic display showing Marcus's scanned data alongside comparative information from databases spanning the known galaxy. Lieutenant Kessa worked at a nearby console, her four arms moving in practice coordination as she pulled up additional records. No military service in any official capacity, Kessa reported. No record of combat training certifications. Employment history shows exactly what he claimed: various logistics and supply chain positions. Education: university degree in supply chain management from a place called the University of Washington. And yet the scans don't lie, Vaxtrel said. He'd seen this before, though not with humans. Modified soldiers who'd had their records scrubbed. Corporate security operatives working under false identities. The methods varied, but the pattern was consistent. When someone's physical capabilities didn't match their documentation, there was usually a reason worth investigating. "I've requested Dr. Yilmoth conduct a full medical examination," Kessa said. "If he's been modified, she'll find it." Dr. Yilmoth belonged to a species called the crystalline, beings whose bodies were composed of a silicon-based structure that could interface directly with medical equipment. She'd been practicing medicine for over 70 years, and in that time she'd examined thousands of species. When she entered Marcus's cell an hour later, accompanied by floating medical drones carrying various scanning equipment, she expected to find the obvious signs of augmentation that the security systems had somehow missed. What she found instead confused her more than any case in the past decade. "No cybernetic implants," she announced to Vaxtrel over the communication link. "I've scanned at resolutions that would detect components smaller than individual cells. There's nothing artificial in his body beyond some old dental work." "Genetic modification?" Vaxtrel asked. "His genetic code matches baseline human standards according to the Galactic Medical Database. No markers for enhancement therapies, no signs of gene editing. If he's been modified, it was done with technology I've never encountered." Marcus sat patiently through the examination, answering questions about his medical history, any injuries he'd sustained, medications he'd taken. He was cooperative to the point of being cheerful, which somehow made the situation more unsettling. Guilty people usually showed stress. Marcus just seemed confused and slightly annoyed. But Dr. Yilmoth did note several interesting details. The density of neural pathways in the regions of his brain associated with hand-eye coordination was remarkable. His muscle fibers showed a composition that suggested varied types of physical stress over many years. His cardiovascular system operated with an efficiency that most sedentary species never developed. And there were faint scars on his knuckles and shins, the kind that came from repeated impact. "He's been training," she concluded. "Extensively, but with what I cannot say." Kessa's investigation into Marcus's background revealed information that raised more questions than it answered. His social media presence. Humans apparently documented their lives obsessively on various platforms, showed a person who enjoyed what appeared to be recreational activities. There were photos of him rock climbing, images from something called a martial arts tournament, videos of him playing in competitive gaming events. "Gaming," Kessa said aloud, studying a video of Marcus playing what appeared to be a combat simulation. His hands moved in a blur across the controls, his eyes tracking multiple elements on screen simultaneously. The video's caption read, "Finally hit diamond rank. 3 years of grinding paid off." "What is gaming?" Vaxtrel asked. "Simulated activities conducted for entertainment," Kessa explained, pulling up more information. "Humans appear to have an extensive industry built around virtual competitions. This particular type requires rapid reflexes and decision-making." Vaxtrel studied the video. "He trained combat reflexes for entertainment. It appears so, and this martial arts he participated in." Kessa brought up another file. "These are formalized combat systems. He trained in multiple styles over many years, not for military service, for recreation." The word hung in the air, recreation, training one's body for combat as a leisure activity. It was a concept that neither Vaxtrel nor Kessa had encountered before. Most species train for specific purposes: military service, security work, survival in dangerous environments. The idea of voluntarily subjecting oneself to combat training without necessity was bizarre. "I want to see what he can do," Vaxtrel decided. "Bring him to Training Facility 7. Training Facility 7 was designed for security personnel to maintain their skills. It featured an open space equipped with holographic projectors, movable obstacles, and safety systems that could simulate combat scenarios without actual injury. When Marcus was brought in, still cooperative but clearly tired of the situation, he found Vaxtrel and Kessa waiting alongside several other security officers who'd heard about the detained human and wanted to see for themselves. "Mr. Chen," Vaxtrel began, "we would like you to participate in several exercises. This will help us understand your capabilities." Marcus shrugged. "Sure, I guess. What do you want me to do?" "We'll start with something simple." Vaxtrel activated a control panel, and a series of lights appeared in the air around Marcus, holographic targets that could register touch. "When a light turns green, touch it as quickly as you can." It was a basic reaction test, the kind given to security recruits to establish baseline performance. The average Korthan could complete the sequence in about 2 seconds. Humans, according to the database, averaged around 3 seconds. The first light turned green. Marcus's hand shot out and tagged it almost before the color change fully registered. Another light. Another instant response. The sequence accelerated, lights appearing in random positions, requiring Marcus to turn, reach, sometimes jump or crouch. He tagged every single one without hesitation. The watching security officers exchanged glances. Kessa checked the timer. 1.3 seconds, she announced. That's faster than our academy records." Marcus lowered his arms, breathing only slightly harder. "Is this like Beat Saber?" he asked. "The pattern recognition is pretty similar." "Beat Saber?" Vaxtrel repeated. "It's a VR rhythm game. You slash blocks in time with music. Really good for hand-eye coordination." Another game. Another recreational activity that happened to train combat-applicable skills. Vaxtrel increased the difficulty. More targets, appearing faster in more complex patterns. Then he added movement requirements. Marcus had to travel between designated zones while hitting targets. Then multiple simultaneous targets requiring prioritization. Marcus adapted to each escalation within seconds. When targets appeared behind him, he developed a pattern of peripheral awareness that let him respond without fully turning. When the targeting zones became smaller, his precision remained consistent. By the end of the sequence, he was moving through the space with fluid efficiency that looked almost choreographed. 2.1 seconds, Kessa reported, her voice barely above a whisper. "On the advanced sequence." "That's... Mr. Chen, how are you doing this?" Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead. "I mean, it's just pattern recognition and reaction speed, right? Once you figure out the timing and optimal movement paths, it's not that different from speedrunning a video game level." The security officers didn't understand most of those words, but they understood the implications. An unmodified human, claiming no military training, had just outperformed their best personnel on reaction tests. Vaxtrel felt something he rarely experienced: concern that bordered on fear. If this human was average by his species standards, what were their actual warriors capable of? An emergency meeting was called with Commander Loras, the station's administrator. She was a Luminian, a species known for wisdom and careful deliberation. Her luminescent skin pulsed with soft colors that reflected her emotional state, currently a mixture of blue concern and orange curiosity. "You're telling me," she said slowly, "that this human has no combat training, no modifications, and yet performs like an elite soldier." "He claims to have training," Vaxtrel corrected, "but not military training, recreational training, activities he engaged in voluntarily for enjoyment." "That seems unlikely." "I thought so too, but Dr. Yilmoth confirms his physiology is unmodified and his background check reveals no deceptions. What if he's telling the truth?" Commander Dolores' skin flickered through several colors as she processed this. Then we need to understand what makes humans different, not as adversaries but as a learning opportunity. She paused. You said he's been cooperative, extraordinarily so, almost cheerful despite the circumstances. Then perhaps we've been approaching this wrong. Stop treating him as a threat, treat him as a research subject, with his consent naturally. Dr. Yilmoth was pleased with this approach. She'd been fascinated by Marcus since the examination, particularly by the disconnect between his casual demeanor and his remarkable capabilities. When she proposed a detailed interview about his background, focusing on his training and activities, Marcus agreed immediately. Finally, he said, settling into a more comfortable chair in an interview room. Someone wants to actually listen instead of just running tests. Dr. Yilmoth arranged her crystalline structure into what she hoped was an unthreatening configuration. Vaxtrel and Kessa observed through a one-way window, recording everything. Let's start with your childhood, Dr. Yilmoth suggested. What activities did you engage in? Marcus leaned back thinking. Normal kid stuff, I guess. I played outside a lot, tag, hide and seek, climbing trees. My parents enrolled me in soccer when I was 5. That was fun. Lots of running. Soccer is a sport. Yeah, team sport. You try to kick a ball into the other team's goal. Requires a lot of cardio, quick direction changes, spatial awareness. Dr. Yilmoth made notes. And you did this recreationally. It was just for fun, yeah. I wasn't very good, honestly, but I liked playing. What else did you do as a child? Let's see. I started playing video games around the same time. My older brother had a console and I'd play with him. Started with simple stuff, then got into more complex games as I got older. These video games, Vaxtrel interjected over the intercom. Describe them. Marcus glanced toward the speaker. Lots of different types. Racing games, puzzle games, adventure games, but I really got into competitive gaming in middle school, mostly first-person shooters and fighting games. Competitive, Kessa said. You competed against other humans. Yeah, online mostly. Tournaments sometimes. You're playing against people from all over trying to outthink and outreact them. You learn to track multiple targets, predict movement patterns, manage resources, coordinate with teammates. I probably put in, I don't know, 10,000 hours, maybe more. In the observation room, Kessa and Vaxtrel exchanged looks. 10,000 hours of training combat reflexes and tactical thinking. As a hobby, starting in childhood. And the martial arts, Dr. Yilmoth prompted. Oh, right. My parents wanted me to stay active, so they signed me up for Taekwondo when I was 8. I liked it, the discipline, the physical challenge, the progression through belt ranks. Did that until I was 16, then switched to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in college. Why did you switch? Taekwondo is great for striking and flexibility, but I wanted to learn grappling. BJJ is all about leverage and technique. How to control an opponent, how to escape from bad positions. It's like physical chess. And you competed in this as well. Yeah, local tournaments. Never anything serious, but it was fun to test myself. I still train when I can find a gym. It's good exercise and a nice stress relief after work. Dr. Yilmoth's crystalline structure pulsed with colors indicating fascination. You find combat training relaxing. I mean, it's hard work, but yeah, there's something meditative about it. You're completely focused, all your attention on the present moment. Plus you meet interesting people, learn new techniques. It's engaging. What other activities have you engaged in? Marcus thought for a moment. Track and field in middle school, sprinting and long-distance running. Rock climbing in college, both indoor and outdoor. I did a triathlon once that was brutal. Basketball with friends. Hiking. I go to the gym a few times a week, mix of cardio and weight training. Nothing too intense. Each activity Marcus listed was another piece of a puzzle that was becoming clearer and more disturbing. He'd been engaging in varied physical challenges since childhood. His body had adapted to running, jumping, climbing, swimming, striking, grappling, lifting. His mind had been trained through thousands of hours of simulated combat and competition, and he considered all of this normal. Mr. Chen, Vaxtrel asked, how many other humans engage in activities like yours? Marcus laughed. Millions. Billions, I mean, I'm pretty average. There are people way more dedicated than me, professional athletes, serious martial artists, people who train full-time, and there are people less active too. But yeah, most humans do some kind of sports or exercise. Why? The question came from Kessa, who couldn't contain her curiosity. Why would you voluntarily subject yourself to physical stress if not for necessary preparation? Marcus considered this. Because it feels good. Because we like challenges. Because sitting still all day is boring, he shrugged. Humans are just, we like to push ourselves, see what we're capable of. Plus, the community aspect is nice, shared experiences and all that. In the observation room, Commander Dolores had joined Vaxtrel and Kessa. Her skin had shifted to a deep purple, the Luminian color for profound realization. They train themselves, she said quietly. Their entire culture is built around voluntary self-improvement. Not for war, not for survival, for satisfaction. Vaxtrel pulled up additional data on human civilization. Earth's history showed a species that had always tested its limits. They'd been running organized athletic competitions for thousands of years. They'd developed countless martial arts styles. They'd created entire industries around physical fitness and competitive gaming. And recently, they'd taken these same drives into space. If this is average, Vaxtrel said, we need to see what he's actually capable of. Word had spread through the security force about the detained human. Many officers were skeptical. Some thought the tests had been flawed. Others believed Marcus had simply gotten lucky. A group of them, led by Sergeant Cracks, a heavily built Corthan with 15 years of military service and numerous combat decorations, approached Vaxtrel with a request. Let us test him properly, Cracks said. In actual combat scenarios, Commander Dolores was hesitant. If he's as capable as we think, someone could be injured. Then we'll use the safety protocols, Cracks insisted. Full combat simulations with holographic opponents and stun equipment. If he's really that good, we need to see it. If he's not, we can stop worrying. Marcus, when asked, agreed with surprising enthusiasm. Sure, why not? Might as well. Plus, this is kind of interesting. I've never really thought about how my hobbies might translate to actual combat situations. The first scenario was straightforward. Marcus stood in a simulated crowded area, a holographic representation of a busy market. Somewhere in the crowd was a hostile that would attack. He needed to identify and neutralize the threat. It was a standard security exercise testing observation skills, threat recognition, and reaction time. The average security officer completed it in about 4.7 seconds. They activated the scenario. Marcus's eyes scanned the crowd with systematic efficiency, his head moving in small increments to cover the entire field of view. 3 seconds in, his body tensed. A figure in the crowd had moved wrong, weight shifted aggressively, hand reaching for a weapon. Marcus moved. The hostile raised its weapon. Marcus had already closed the distance, struck the weapon arm, and delivered a disabling blow to the holographic opponent's core. Timer, 1.9 seconds. Luck, Cracks muttered. Run it again. They ran it 5 more times, varying the scenario each time. Multiple hostiles, different crowd densities, changing threat positions. Marcus's performance improved with each iteration as he identified the scenario's patterns and optimized his responses. By the 6th run, he completed it in 1.4 seconds. He's adapting, Kessa observed, learning the system and exploiting it. That's what you do in games, Marcus explained when they paused to review. You learn the mechanics, identify the patterns, figure out the optimal strategy. Same principle here. Cracks was no longer skeptical. He was concerned. I want to test him directly, hand-to-hand combat. The combat simulation equipment used holographic overlays and feedback systems that could create the sensation of strikes and grappling without actual injury. Cracks and Marcus each wore the interface suits and entered the sparring area. Cracks had significant advantages. He was larger, heavier, stronger, and had 15 years of military combat training. He'd fought opponents from a dozen different species. He knew Corthan combat techniques that had been refined over centuries. The match lasted 8 seconds. Cracks opened with a standard Corthan rushing attack, using his superior mass to overwhelm opponents. Marcus sidestepped with minimal movement, his hands making contact with Cracks's extended arm. The momentum that should have driven Marcus backward instead redirected, and suddenly Cracks was off balance, his own force working against him. Marcus moved with him, maintaining contact, his body position shifting to control Crax's center of gravity. Before Crax could recover, he was on the ground with Marcus behind him, an arm around his neck in what the suit registered as a perfect submission hold. The watching officers stood in stunned silence. Crax got to his feet slowly, his pride more injured than his body. "What was that?" "Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu," Marcus said, helping him up. "The fundamental principle is using leverage and technique instead of strength. You committed to an attack, overextended, and I just redirected your momentum. Then it was about position, keeping my weight distributed so you couldn't use your strength advantage." "Teach me," Crax said immediately, but Vaxtrel wanted to see more. One more scenario, multiple opponents. They set up a situation where Marcus faced 3 holographic opponents simultaneously. This was considered nearly impossible. Even highly trained warriors struggled when outnumbered. The mathematics of combat geometry favored the group. They could attack from multiple angles, coordinate their efforts, overwhelm defenses. The scenario began. Marcus didn't engage. He moved. His first steps took him toward a position where 2 of the opponents were on the same side, reducing the attack angles. When they advanced, he was already shifting, using one of the holographic pillars in the environment as a barrier. He didn't fight 3 opponents. He created a situation where he only faced one at a time. When he did strike, it was quick, efficient attacks that targeted weak points his earlier medical scans had revealed about Corthan physiology. Then he was moving again, repositioning, controlling the space. The opponents tried to adapt, to coordinate, but Marcus was always a step ahead. He used their aggression against them, baited attacks that left them exposed, created openings through misdirection. When the scenario ended with all 3 opponents neutralized, the timer showed 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Most security officers couldn't last 30 seconds. Marcus was breathing hard but grinned. "That was fun. Reminded me of playing against multiple opponents in fighting games. You have to control the spacing, manage your positioning, never let them surround you." Commander Thaloras called an emergency session with the station's governing council. The implications were too significant to handle at the security level alone. Representatives from various species gathered in the council chamber, their reactions ranging from curiosity to outright alarm. "You're saying," Representative Corthax of the Corthan delegation said, "that an unmodified human civilian has combat capabilities exceeding our trained security forces?" "That is exactly what I'm saying," Commander Thaloras confirmed. "And he claims to be average by human standards." "Should we be concerned?" asked Representative Veen, a Metharian whose crystalline features refracted light in worried patterns. "If humans are this capable, are they a threat to galactic peace?" "That's what we need to determine," Commander Thaloras said. "I've asked Mr. Chen to address the council directly." Marcus entered the chamber wearing civilian clothes, looking tired but composed. He'd been on Threshold Station for over 30 hours now, most of that time in detention or testing. But he'd agreed to speak to the council, hoping to finally resolve this situation. "Mr. Chen," Commander Thaloras began, "please help us understand. The council has concerns about human capabilities and intentions." Marcus looked at the assembled representatives, seeing the mix of curiosity and fear in their various features. He took a breath and tried to find the right words. "Look, I understand why this seems weird or maybe threatening," he began. "But humans aren't warriors by nature. We're not bred for combat or designed for conquest. We're just curious. We like challenges. We get bored easily, so we create competitions, games, sports, obstacles to overcome. Yeah, I can react fast and I know how to fight, but I'm not a warrior. I'm a freight coordinator who happens to like video games and occasionally does martial arts for fun. Back on Earth, there are billions of people like me, some more athletic, some less, some who have trained in different skills. But we're not an army waiting to happen." "But your training," Representative Corthax pressed. "It seems deliberately designed to create combat capability." "It's designed to be challenging and engaging," Marcus countered. "We don't do martial arts to prepare for war. We do it because it's interesting, because it teaches discipline, because it's good exercise and it's satisfying to improve at something difficult. The fact that these skills could translate to actual combat is kind of incidental." Dr. Yilmoth, who'd been invited to the council session, spoke up. If I may, I believe I can provide context. Humans evolved as what they call persistence hunters. Their bodies are designed for endurance and adaptability. They can survive in almost any environment, recover from significant injuries, and adapt to varied stresses. This biological foundation, combined with a culture that values self-improvement and challenge, creates individuals who are naturally inclined toward physical and mental development. Mr. Chen isn't exceptional by human standards because humans have created an entire civilization around pushing their limits. Their entertainment involves simulated challenges. Their education includes mandatory physical training. Their social bonds are often formed through shared activities that require skill development. From childhood, they're encouraged to try difficult things, fail, learn, and improve. We have warriors, Marcus added, actual soldiers with real military training, people who have dedicated their lives to combat skills. And yeah, they're impressive, but they're not the norm. Most humans are like me. We just like staying active and learning new things. It's part of our culture. Representative Veen's crystalline features shifted to a more neutral pattern. So you're saying humans aren't a threat, just enthusiastically self-improving, Marcus smiled. That's probably the best way to put it. We're not coming to conquer anyone. We just want to be part of the galactic community, learn about other species, share what we know. The fact that our hobbies happen to keep us in good shape is just a side effect of how we entertain ourselves. The council deliberated for an hour. Eventually, Commander the Loras announced their decision. Mr. Chen, you will be released with our formal apologies. We will update our security protocols to better account for human capabilities, recognizing that your species' baseline standards are significantly different from what our systems were calibrated to detect. Additionally, we would like to invite you, and any other humans interested, to work with our security forces as consultants, not as warriors but as teachers. It seems we have much to learn about training methods, adaptability, and what you call recreational skill development. Marcus felt relief wash over him. I'd be happy to help, though I should warn you I'm really not an expert. There are humans way more qualified than me. That, Vaxtrel said, is exactly what concerns us, but also what intrigues us. 3 weeks later, Marcus had settled into his actual job with Stellar Logistics, coordinating freight routes and managing supply chains. But twice a week, he visited the security center to work with officers interested in learning human training methods. He taught them about interval training, about progressive overload, about muscle confusion and neural adaptation. He introduced them to the concept of working out just for the sake of maintaining fitness. He showed them video games that could improve reaction times and decision-making skills. He demonstrated basic martial arts principles, emphasizing that technique could overcome raw physical advantages. The security officers learned, but more importantly, they began to understand. Humans weren't inherently superior warriors. They were simply a species that had culturally prioritized continuous improvement and had been doing so for thousands of years. Every human was, in a sense, in constant training for challenges they might never face, simply because they found the process enjoyable. Sergeant Cracks became one of Marcus's most dedicated students, particularly fascinated by Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's so different from Corthan combat philosophy, he explained during one session. We're taught to use our strength, our natural advantages. This technique requires me to think differently, to use leverage and position instead of force. That's the beauty of it, Marcus said. It's a problem-solving approach to combat. Every position is a puzzle with solutions. One evening, as Marcus was leaving the security center, he passed a group of young alien recruits who stared at him with undisguised awe. Word had spread about the human who'd outperformed veteran officers, and he'd become something of a legend on the station. Vaxtrel, who'd assigned himself as the primary liaison for human cultural exchange, walked with Marcus toward the residential sector. I wanted to thank you, Vaxtrel said. What you've taught us goes beyond combat techniques. You've shown us a different philosophy. That improvement doesn't require purpose beyond the satisfaction of improvement itself. Marcus smiled. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, I guess so. Humans just really like getting better at stuff. So, Vaxtrel asked, his tone becoming more casual, you mentioned something called Dark Souls in our last session. You said it teaches patience and pattern recognition. Marcus's eyes lit up. Oh man, you want to try it. Fair warning, it's brutal. You're going to die a lot. I am trained security personnel, Vaxtrel said with what might have been Corthan amusement. How difficult could a game be? Marcus laughed. That's what everyone says. Come on, I'll set you up. But don't say I didn't warn you. As they walked through the station's corridors, passing aliens from dozens of different species going about their daily lives, Marcus reflected on the strange turn his life had taken. He'd come to Threshold Station expecting a simple job, a new adventure in space. Instead, he'd inadvertently become a cultural ambassador, teaching aliens that humanity's greatest strength wasn't superior biology or advanced technology. It was simply that humans had never stopped being curious, never stopped challenging themselves, never stopped asking, what if I tried this? And in a galaxy where most species trained only when necessary, that made all the difference. Behind them, through the transparent walls of the security center's training facility, a group of officers from 4 different species worked through the exercises Marcus had taught them. They struggled, they failed, they tried again. They were learning not just new techniques, but a new mindset. They were learning to think like humans. And throughout the galaxy, on stations and ships and planets, other species were beginning to realize what that meant. Humanity had arrived in the cosmic community not as conquerors or warriors, but as a species of enthusiastic problem solvers who treated every challenge, including their own limitations, as just another puzzle to solve. And that, more than any weapon or technology, was what made them remarkable.